So happy New Year, guys. We're just back from a New Year's Eve party, and today we have to talk a little bit about the new proposal or what we've heard from the league. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this. And this is the funniest thing here is that this is everyone's saying this is a number that that is going to be like a crazy high number. I do have to say, it is a fact right now that the WNBA is losing money, and it's going to lose money for the foreseeable future. There is a big but here. These figures, by the way, are absolutely not. It says here, the first report salary from the player side, per documentation obtained by ESPN, November's 28 proposal featured a projected salary cap of 12.5 million, average of 1 million per player salary, max salary of 2.5 million. That's not going to happen. The reason why is because it costs about $500,000 a year per player for the charter flights. It not only costs $1 million per player for the charter flights, it costs with all the they want maternity leave for non-birthing parents. They want all this money, and unfortunately, like let's be completely real here. If you're paying somebody $2 million and they're off, like, it is the insurance needed for some of those things. The insurance increases. The amount that's going to cost to replace players, again, if you're paying $2.5 million for maternity leave, for non-birthing parents, so a lot more players can't get off. And then it gets to the stage then where it's like, oh shit, what way does that affect the salary cap? If they're on maternity leave, does it not affect the salary cap? Because that would be something that could very well happen. But it's one of those things where I'm like, this is an interesting one. But this right here, there's a post here where it says here, the WNBPA projects a recent proposal from the WNBA which would give players 30% gross revenues, believed to feature a 10.5 million salary cap, which is lower than initially that they had. And by the way, like, it is one of those things where 10.5 to 12 is 30%. So 12.5 million was like nearly mid 30s. And it says it resulted in 700 million losses over the course of the deal. The union believe that projection is false. Just putting it out there, if it was only 700 millions of losses, this deal would be signed already. And you might be saying, what does that mean? If it was only the owners signing off on this would be signed already. Because you might be saying, oh, WNBA owners don't want to lose money. 700 millions of dollars of losses. There will be, by the end of this deal, there will be 20 WNBA teams. That is $35 million per WNBA team over the course of, I think, 7 years. That is $5 million a year lost per team, while franchise values are increasing by 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 million a year. Like, every single owner would say yes. The problem is that insert person here, insert investor here that was in 2022, insert NBA owner that has nothing to do with the WNBA here, insert all of them people here, because at the end of the day, these people they're only in this for profit, and they are sick of eating losses on this league that they can't profit on. Like, they are not going to profit on, they will profit from expansions, but what they're not going to profit from is they're not going to profit from the franchise value. That's what the owners are going to do. That is what the owners are going to do. It's one of those things where there are outside investors who, by the way, own 58% of the league, that with this current deal will never see a cent. And that is where the problem is that the franchise values doesn't matter, because I can guarantee you that even with these numbers, all 13 WNBA owners want the league to go ahead and will be glad to accept, because these numbers are super low. 5 million. 5 million. Like, that is nothing. That is absolutely nothing, lads. That is so little. And people don't realize, again, how little 5 million per team per year is. It is fucking nothing when the franchise values are skyrocketing. However, now we're at the stage where it's like, shit, we're looking now at it, and even though it is 5 million, it is a lot of money. Or, like, it's not a lot of money. The problem is that even though each team is losing 5 million, on average, the owners are profiting, but it's those 58% of people, and they're eating losses. They're funding this league. They're not going to continue. 58% of people who will never see the profits are not going to continue funding the league, and that is the situation we're in. Is that I don't think people realize how dire straits we're in. Is that the 58% might literally dissolve the league. It is better for the 58% to dissolve the league because as long as the league's not profitable, franchise values doesn't matter for them. Literally, it is the fact that they sold money off to investors and they expect those investors like the NBA and those outside investors to continue to fund a loss leader. And people are like, oh, they can write it off as taxes. These billionaire owners. Not everything's a billionaire owner. And by the way, people don't understand. It's like, oh, write off as taxes. You're still losing the money. You're like, oh yeah, you don't pay tax. And I was like, but there's nothing for it. Like, it's not a play thing for these things, for these teams. Nobody just wants to burn money. Nobody burns money. Even if it is for taxes, that's not how it works. If you lose 5 million, you don't pay 5 million less in taxes. If you lose 5 million based on corporation tax, you might pay $1 million less in taxes? You're still losing 4 million from your company. Corporation tax, what is corporation tax in States? I know it's only 12.5% here, but we're a tax haven, so shout out corporation tax, baby. Saved me a boatload of money. But yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think people realize just how dire straits the WNBA is in, that we're at a situation now where there is a possibility that they could just say, fuck this, we're done. We're done. We don't want to keep losing this money. The players won't sign a deal that doesn't guarantee us losing the money. We're dissolving the league. And people don't realize that if the WNBA are not putting something that is at least break even short term, or is at least if it's at least break even short term. And by the way, the league, for them to break even, they would probably have to get closer to 20% revenue split, because even though the league will still operate at a loss, there is a chance if the revenue spikes that these people will make a profit. And in long term with the next TV deal, you can then push it to say, okay, in 2028, when the TV deal is being renegotiated, we can say, or 2029, okay, you'll make a profit then. Eat the loss a little bit more, but these losses are just too big. These losses are too big to eat, and that revenue split guarantees when the revenue goes up, the players are still going to get their higher revenue. The operating costs are going to increase for running these teams. And the players get more revenue. I know you're saying 70% goes elsewhere. It's still not a high enough percentage to eat the losses. And when the bigger the league gets, the more money the players get, the higher insurance is, the higher every other cost is. And that's not going to really bother the team owners because their franchise values are skyrocketing. But there's only so much. It's the reason why the league's fucking expanding, because the league then gets the money. And then not the individual owners. At the end of the day, we're now in a situation where I don't know what's going to happen. But I think we're now at a stage, from looking at this number, I think every single WNBA owner is absolutely, this is not a big enough number that they will care about, but there is a big but. There is always the chance that those outside investors just say, fuck this, it's not worth it, and will actually want to dissolve the league. And the players need to be really careful, because I think they are getting very close to the line. For people saying, oh, the WNBA are lying about those numbers, it's not about the WNBA, it's not about the owners, it's about the other 58%. Because that 700 million number, when you actually take into account, is nothing. It's about the other 58%. And everyone's complaining about the league, the players versus the league, and it's actually not. It's the other 58% that is going to be that literally have the power to dissolve the league. And the players need to be careful, because there's a very strong chance of that happening. I'm looking at, by very strong, as the most drastic measure, there's no amount of money that Adam Silver and the teams can put in. There's no amount of billionaires that own teams. The only thing is that, can you find billionaires to buy the 58% and lose money for? Can you get Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk to buy the league? You're going to need a fucking trillionaire to buy out the 58%. And that's not going to happen. It's the most drastic measure. And the fact that I think there is about a 10% chance of them pulling the plug and saying, fuck this. Because again, 58% of the league is owned by people who don't actually give that much of a fuck about women's basketball. They're there to profit.